All right, what's up, dudes? Today we're going to talk about turbo kit component selection for my red sedan E36. And I've got a bunch of the pieces here. I'm just going to kind of go over each thing and explain why I chose that versus another part. And let's get to it. Here we go. All right, so here's the majority of the turbo kit components I have for the red car. Got a full exhaust here. As you can see, this is like the rear section. It's going to be an axle dump, kind of like an FD car. Those actually sound really cool too, but it's completely a straight pipe. And then we've got a down pipe here. This is what's called a Marmon flange, not Mormon like in Utah, but Marmon. And that's for a style of exhaust housing that Borg Warners sometimes come with, rather than a standard V-band. So the turbo I'm going to be using is a Borg Warner S256. It's a 56 millimeter journal bearing turbo, oil cooled only. I actually don't have it here to show you, but this is the style outlet flange it has. So that'll bolt right up to what I've got. And essentially it's like a V-band, it's just a little bit different shape, as you can see there. Shout out to my buddy Jason Scott for getting me all these parts. This is essentially most of his old turbo kit. He upgraded pretty much everything he has on his M3. So I picked up his old stuff. So we've got bungs for the wideband and the factory O2 and some clamps and stuff. This is the engine mount arm that commonly gets replaced on E36s on the passenger side of the block, because when you're going bottom mount turbo, the intake essentially has to pass right through this area. So it's curved rather than the factory one is straight, and that allows you a little bit more intake clearance. Onto the turbo manifold, we're using an SPA turbo manifold, so it's I guess you would call it a log style, but it's not a true log style. It is cast iron, which many log style manifolds are, but typically a log style means that it comes into just like this rectangular block area, and nothing's really flowing, or there's no guiding the air in a smooth pathway. This is something in between like a tubular manifold and a log style manifold, because it has these individual runners that try to blend the flow nicely, send it at the wastegate port first for better boost control, and then out into the turbine. So it's a T4 manifold. It has nice relief cuts here at the flanges so that it doesn't crack. And also a cast manifold like this is a good option because they're relatively inexpensive. They can retain the AC compressor. All the heat stays low in the engine bay. And being that they're cast iron, they're basically impossible to crack. So you can run the shit out of these things, drifting them or on a road course or whatever, and you're just not going to crack one of these. So very, very robust thing. They are a pain in the ass to install, but we'll get to that in a couple days, and I'll show you guys that. We also are going to port this out a little bit. This is the wastegate port that comes with it factory, and they're only about a 33 millimeter hole, so we're going to port that out. I think you can get it to about 38 or 39 mil. That way we have plenty of wastegate flow. And then, let's see, we also have a nice little wastegate pipe. So that bolts to that 2-bolt flange there. And then we've got a tile wastegate flange on that end. I think it's actually set up for a tile MVR, which would be a 44 millimeter. So got the manifold, wastegate pipe. Need to get a wastegate, which I think I have. Then onto the intercooler. This is a kind of standard size for E36s. It's a 24-inch long or wide, whatever, I guess you'd be installing it that way. So 24 inches long, 12 inches tall, and I believe it's a 3-inch thick core. Yeah, that's a 3. So that's a pretty standard size for these cars, and I could have gone to a 4-inch thick core, but that'd be harder to fit because you have to cut more of the core support up front. So let's see. All right, so that's a 24 by 12 by 3. That should fit nicely behind the factory bumper. I'll just trim the core support like you always have to. And then we also have piping included. This is a flange for a tile blow-off valve. And then we've got a MAF flange, a slot style MAF flange already installed, which we'll be using an RK Tunes MAF in that. That just slides into the pipe there. Let's see, we've got an outlet welded on the intercooler there, and then another couple pipes here. So that's pretty much everything to go ahead and get the most of the turbo kit on. I still need to show you the turbo, which I don't have here with me, and get a new exhaust housing for the turbo. I'm gonna get the smallest T4 exhaust housing I can, because I'm using a little 2.5 liter engine, and we want it to spool as early as possible. So we're gonna go with the smallest T4 exhaust housing available for the S256 Borg Warner, and we will throw this stuff on. In choosing these parts, my other option, so there's two pretty inexpensive turbo manifolds for E36s, one of them being the SPA, which is obviously a bottom mount turbo, and it has pretty good flow characteristics, but if you're looking for like over 700 wheel, you're gonna want something with a little bit more manifold volume and longer runners and stuff, and possibly a twin scroll as well. So this is kind of a compromise. It's got low internal volume, so it fills quickly, which means that it's gonna spool the turbo a little bit earlier, but at the expense of some top end flow. So since we're only trying to make maybe 400 wheel or so on this setup, that's totally fine, and it'll be nice and reliable, which is what we want. The other budget manifold for these things, besides the SPA, is called an RSI manifold, which is a Rapid Spool Industries. And they're a top mount, but you have to make custom AC lines. The compressor stays where it is, but you have to make custom AC lines to run that. And with the SPA, I know I've run it before, you can do it with completely stock AC lines. Plus, I got such a good deal on all of these components from my buddy Jason that I just really couldn't pass it up. I essentially got all of this for basically the price of one new RSI manifold. So that's a huge savings. Thank you so much, Jason. And can't wait to get some of this stuff on the car. We'll start that on Monday. The first thing I'm going to do before putting the manifold on, though, is take it to the machine shop and make sure that the flange is entirely flat across the surface. I don't want any rises or dips or anything. That way the exhaust gaskets will seal perfectly, and we won't have any exhaust leaks, which causes a boost leak or slow turbo response and stuff. Also, on this flange where the turbine housing sits, I'm going to have that one decked flat as well, because typically I like to do that, deck the manifold side flat and deck the turbine side flat, and then just not run a gasket on it and just bolt it directly to the manifold. So that's one good way to ensure a leak-free setup is go check it at the machine shop first. So we'll do that and get to it. Well, I hope that shed a little bit of light on the components used on the red car and my plans with it. I'm going to basically go ahead and turbo it right now because I got it running the other day, confirmed it runs. Now, I think I have semi-clogged injectors, so rather than dick around with like trying to get free-flowing stock injectors, which I'm about to replace immediately for the turbo stuff, I'm just going to go ahead and throw everything on. I know the engine works. I know it builds oil pressure. We'll put in bigger injectors. We'll go with the RK Tunes tuning package and MAF and throw this thing together. And yeah, then we're gonna continue with the 5-speed swap stuff. So I'm basically gonna pull the automatic transmission off, get it out of the way, and then install this turbo kit stuff while I have a little bit more clearance in there, because it's quite a pain to install the SPA manifold in bottom out configuration, which is the only configuration it is. So yeah, hopefully that helped you guys. I'm sorry I'm sweating like a whore in church already. It's really hot out in the garage here. I was just trying to make a quick little video to explain what's up with the red car, and that's what's up with it. Those are the parts. We're gonna get to it here very shortly. See you next time.